Communication. That's the key word that we are focusing on today on this podcast called Dad Talks. I'm a father to a 8 months, 15 days old daughter, and with me right now is someone who is a brilliant speech therapist. Her name is Dara Murphy. Welcome to Dad Talks. How are you
Thank
doing?
you so much. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
All right. You're more than welcome, first of all, taking your time out, being here. And this, what we are doing is understanding each other with words.
Mm-hmm.
As a parent, uh, they are normally worried about their kids getting to the milestone of talking quickly.
Mm-hmm.
What is that one thing as a speech therapist that you are normally bombarded with as a question when it comes to patients or kids coming to you?
Well, I think that, the most common thing that I'm hearing these days in clinic and all the time is my child saying enough words for whatever developmental milestone they're at or whatever age they're at. So that's definitely the most common thing. A lot of worry from parents. I think that in this day and age with, increased access to the internet and, TikTok and YouTube and things like that. There's so much information out there. And then in turn, there's a lot of comparison. So parents get very worried, very panicked about is my child doing the right thing at a certain stage? So yeah, mostly it's a case that they've seen a developmental milestone or they've researched, my child's 12 months, so they'll look at what they should be saying by 12 months. And then if their child doesn't fit very neatly into that box, then they'll worry. So they'll come for a consultation to get some advice and some help that if there is a delay there, that we can support them in the right way.
Okay, so what is the right age? Is there a right age? Let it be if it's on Google or TikTok or YouTube, like you mentioned,
Hmm.
or is it very subjective? It's based on child to child basis. How does
Yeah.
it work?
Definitely. It's definitely subjective, but having said that, there are certain things that we like to see happening. We like to see growth and improvement as the months develop, if we're talking about very young children. But I would say that we shouldn't be too prescriptive with the milestones. Definitely they're a good guideline. But if there's a little bit of discrepancy on either side, that's also fine. But then again, having said that as well, it's always good for parents to seek advice and to not feel ashamed. I think that's the big thing that I would say to parents is don't feel ashamed if your child is not at a certain stage, because the support is there to be used. So yeah, there are, as I said, there are guidelines that we like to follow. There are milestones that we generally use as a barometer of where the child is at. But every environment's different, every child's different, every family dynamic is different. So those are things that we can pull apart a bit. If a parent comes for a consultation with speech therapy, we can delve into that a little bit more and, give very individual advice to parents based on what their situations are.
Okay. In a broad perspective, listening to whatever you have said so far, when is it extremely delayed? What delay is too much delay?
Yeah.
Yes, there are parameters like you spoke about, but if we put a number to it,
Yeah.
if you can.
So usually, again, it is very subjective from child to child, but usually by about 12 months, we like to see that expressive communication or talking has started and is, it's on a roll. So we like to see a lot of babbling and noises starting from about 6 months, even before that. By about 12 months, we like to see some early vocabulary.
Like mama, papa,
Mama,
dada.
baba, ball, car, go, open, things like that.
By
Things
12
that,
months. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
but
Okay.
yeah, around that. Then there's lots and lots of development within that. Usually, then by about 2 years old, we like to start seeing early sentences, so two words combining together, like car, go, or more, please, or more juice, or something like that. Um, and, it's not just about the words as well. We also look very closely at how children are using language. So we like to see that children are using language for certain functions as well. So for example, it's really good if they know a lot of numbers or they can label colors and things like that. but it doesn't really get them an end result. It doesn't get them anything. Whereas if they can say open or help, that can help them to get a function from that.
Yeah.
So we like to see them starting to use communication to be over and back with a person. We also like to look at their understanding of language. So are they starting to follow commands? By about 18 months, then we like to see them responding to their name or responding to a very simple command like put on your shoes or something like that. So we're also looking at that part as well. That's all part of communication, understanding the instruction as well as being able to verbalize or being able to express.
So it's not just about speech, it's about the entire comprehension of
Yeah.
things around them
Yes.
and how they can, get the reward by
Yes.
saying a few things.
Yes, exactly.
That's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of families here in the UAE who live in bilingual atmosphere. May there be, a Desi family with a maid who is from India, perhaps from Africa, perhaps from Philippines, or a different part of the world,
Yeah.
whose accent, dialect, the way they speak, the language they use might be very different. In that kind of a scenario, what to expect out of a child who has no idea about what is going on?
Yeah, and it's actually that's a good point to make because it's quite a common misconception sometimes, or a myth that we like to myth bust, that having exposure to multiple languages or multiple dialects in the home will give a child a speech and language problem or cause a speech and language disorder. And the research is quite concrete in this, in that it does not cause any type of speech, language, or communication difficulties. We see that children who are exposed to more languages over time, there are such wonderful benefits of that, their cultural appreciation, their connection to their home culture, their academic success, their emotional success. There's so much research has been done on the benefits of bilingualism for children. So I always tell parents to, because this is something they'll ask me quite a lot, is should I stop one language if my child is a little bit delayed in their speech and language? They'll ask, should I stop one and concentrate on the other? And I always say no, because as I said, being bilingual, it doesn't cause speech and language concerns. If a child is going to have a speech and language delay or a communication difficulty, it will likely be there anyway, regardless of the languages. So children are very moldable, they're very able to code switch between languages. So yeah, just in a very simple answer, no, it doesn't cause any difficulties.
Okay. What can accelerate better speech for kids?
So yeah, that's a great question.
Give me 3 pointers on that.
Okay, one massive one is reading to your children. So reading and literacy is so important for speech and language development. They're hearing words, they're usually seeing they're having that visual as well as that. So you're pointing to pictures and you're reading the words, or you're naming the vocabulary on the book. They're starting to learn some early turn-taking skills in turning the pages and things like that. And they're also having that one-to-one time with the parent. So they're having that focus time, which is so important as well. Another thing is just creating a language-rich environment. So lots and lots of talking to kids, and this is something a lot of parents might think, that speech and language development or creating that environment is really complicated, but it's really not. So just talking to your child, narrating what they're doing throughout the day. So we would always say less questions and more comments. So not necessarily asking them, what are you doing? You might just comment and say, oh, you're painting a picture. So that gives a child lots of stimulation. They're hearing lots of vocabulary. And then, as well as that, having some really good routines as well. So, children who have lots of opportunities for social and language development, like whether that's in the park, meeting with friends, or interacting with other kids in nursery as well, those environments are really good for speech and language development. And less screen time, not no screen time, because as a lot of parents tell me, screen, they have to sometimes use it, and that's totally fine, you know. But we would say actually that screen time should not be given to children below the age of 2.
Yeah.
That's what the research shows, that that's when it becomes a little bit concerning. So but over to a small amount of screen time is fine, and um I suppose opting for more educational type of content.
Like more Miss Rachel
Yeah.
than more any other
Yes.
vibrant
Yeah,
cartoons. Like,
exactly.
what is that, Coco Melon?
Coco
No,
Melon,
that's
yeah.
really bad. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but very popular.
Yeah, it's very popular because it's
Yeah.
that bad. So
Yeah.
no Coco Melon for kids,
Yes.
not even for you as a parent, please. What are the top 3 tips that you would like to give out to parents, especially like a new parent like mine,
Yeah.
when it comes to, our daughter, our sons, getting ahead?
Mhm.
And I don't care about the comparison as per se,
Yeah.
because I know my child would take its time and I want
Mhm.
my child to take time. I'm not
Mhm.
in a rush for her
Mhm.
to grow up quickly.
Mhm.
But so that parents understand, I'm not talking about how to get better at speech, but
Mhm.
3 things to put the, parents' mind at ease.
Yeah. So, just what you touched upon there, the comparison thing can be a really big challenge for parents. And I do really empathize with that because there is so much accessibility to what everyone else is doing. Whether that's through social media, through, just having that access now to what their friends are doing. Um, I would say just don't compare your child. So, every child is different. And even within your own family circle, your older child may have met their milestones at a different rate to your second child. So I would say even in amongst your own family, don't play the comparison game as much as you can, although I know it is difficult. I would say as well not to overcomplicate the speech and language learning process. As I mentioned before, just simple talking to your child and having even 10 to 15 minutes a day, if you can, of that one-to-one focused time and focused attention can really, bring lovely benefits to your child's speech and language development. Um, and then the third point, yeah, if I can just like reiterate again how important reading is, reading to your children, it can be a really nice thing to focus on just once per day, a short story. That can be a really, really good way to easily develop your child's speech and language and communication development. And one more point I'll say is to not delay if you do suspect an issue. And to not panic if you suspect an issue as well. I don't always want parents to think that if they come to a speech and language therapist for advice, that that automatically means that their child will need any kind of intensive support. Quite often, a consultation with a speech and language therapist and some strategies to bring home and try at home can be enough to accelerate that process. Sometimes the child might need some one-to-one focused therapy, and that's also fine. Yeah, so just not for them not to worry because speech and language concerns are very common, but early intervention and early support is really, really beneficial to their child. So don't delay if they suspect any concerns.
Make sure that you keep all this in mind. Um, for me as a parent, 3 good takeaways from this Dad Talks would be: number 1, less screen time, especially if your child is under the age of 2. More reading with your child because that does help. 3, if you are living in a bilingual home, it is completely okay. And it actually is beneficial, according to Dara here, who is a speech and language therapist and who's taken her time out to be here. Thank you so much, Dara. It means a
Thank
lot that you
you.
came down. And I hope that, my daughter takes her own time in talking. And when she starts talking, she talks loudly and she makes sure that she's looking in the eye. Thank you, Dara.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
City 1016.